Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flying Over 50 at Any Age. I'm Cyrus Webb, joined by my lovely co host, Makeda Smith, the author of the best selling book by that name. We welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on X. We also are bringing in our friends over on Instagram. We're about to connect with our friends over on Amazon as well. If you guys have been joining us for this series, we're in week number 12. Don't tell Makeda, though. Week number 12 of our, of our series as we've been going through her book, and we're now live on Amazon Live for Flying Over 50 at Any Age. So glad you guys can be with us. And I want to say for you guys joining us on the Amazon platform, make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You see it here in this corner or down below. We have programming here 6 days a week here on Amazon Live. And also you will see Makeda's book down below, either in print, the Kindle edition, so you can make sure you guys get that as well. If you have not gotten your copy of the book, what we do every week is we're able to go through the days that Makeda has outlined, and there are 30 days, and we've been literally going through week by week. I'm discussing the messages Makeda shares and the great lessons for all of us. Makeda, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Cyrus?
Doing amazing. We have our regulars coming in over there on IG. Allie Delsimer, hello
Oh,
to
that's
you.
cool. Hey,
Uh,
everybody.
Zimmer Entertainment Group, hello to you as well. Good to be able to see you joining us as well. Zimmer Entertainment Group, please send me another DM on Instagram so it'll be up in my inbox so we can get together. But Makeda, week 12,
Week 12, we're getting up there.
see, thank you. We're getting up there. And
Really?
this one, I told Makeda that this one was an interesting one for me. And probably I would have to say, Makeda, I think other people may find it challenging to do what you say. And
Mm-hmm.
then there'll be people like myself that read this that say, I can still find ways to incorporate it that are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I want, before we get into today's message, I do want to
Okay.
ask you about some of the conversations I heard about last week on YouTube. Because I think this is really interesting that people are continuing the conversation, and we do invite people to do that. And that
Okay.
is about courage. Um, did you, when you were writing the book, Makeda, did you see yourself as courageous in the things that you went through and came out of?
Um, in retrospect, okay, as I was writing the book, I did
Mhm.
start to see myself, but I hadn't really thought about it. But as
Yeah,
I was writing the book, it was kind of impacting me like, oh wow, oh wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that is one of the great things. I saw that comment and I was like, oh, because they were saying, how courageous it is to share. And that is so
Mm,
true, I think, for a lot of people, right? For men and women. A lot of times we don't share sometimes the challenges because of how people may judge us, right? About a
yeah,
situation.
that's true.
Instead of realizing who can be helped by that, right?
But I also have to add,
Yeah.
I thought I was sharing intimately with just the reader. I did not know Cyrus was going to put me on an international platform to talk about my business.
Oh, you didn't think that? Oh, okay. Camilla, hello to you. Good to see you over there on IG as well. But no, it is. I'm so glad that you said yes to this. But I think this message for our audience, Allie, I think you're going to really enjoy this week too because it is
Hey, Allie.
really a powerful message. I'm going to be reading this one. I'm going to actually put it up on the screen as well, Makeda, for them so they can follow along, and that way they can also be able to
Okay.
see the photo there. So again, day 12: rest your mind, relax your body, feed your soul. I discovered the magic of taking sleep days, or what I call beauty sleep days, long before self care became a trending topic across social media. I can thank clients and people who taxed my nerves and drained my energy for that important lesson. Long baths, quiet meals alone with a book, and yes, days I designated as beautiful sleep days, which meant I purposely spent the entire day in bed, became my self care regimen early on before I started practicing daily meditation and yoga years later. Many mistakenly think of flying higher as pushing forward full speed ahead. But if you think about an eagle rising higher in the sky, their wings don't flap. In fact, they give the appearance of floating in the air. Society used to shun rest and relax. We were led to believe that working hard is the path to success. I'm here to tell you that working hard is the path to burnout. Whether your work involves physical laboring or mental strategizing, balancing your energy output is crucial. Do you feel guilty when you indulge in me time? Do you shun yourself and admonish yourself to get back to work? Do you realize that resting, relaxation, and pampering is what fuels you to work more efficiently so you can navigate further horizons? It took me years as a self-employed single parent mom to uncover the sweet elixir of something as simple as a beauty sleep day. What self-pampering rituals do you indulge in? Do you need to create some new ones or even enhance the ones you have? Is there guilt shadowing your me time? I'm going to keep the picture up there, Makeda. So, Makeda, this message, like I said, is a really powerful one,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, and I'm curious, and I'll ask you as the author: do you
Okay.
think women are made to feel more guilty of this than men?
Um, I would say definitely.
Hmm.
And but maybe I'm biased because I'm a woman. But, but I also have to say, speaking as a baby boomer,
Yeah.
I think all the baby boomers were like over 60. Speaking
Hmm.
as a baby boomer, I think it was really ingrained in us to work hard. Like
Gotcha.
my father was a hustler, so he worked, work, 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 work. My mother was a school teacher. She was also in school getting, I think she got her master's degree, and she had three, later on, four children. So she was raising us. So I never saw her relax. I
Yeah.
never saw her take me time. Me time, like in this day and age, self-care is like the norm.
Hmm.
People talk about self-care, self-pampering. Back
Right.
then, we didn't even have the verbiage for it.
Yeah.
So hence when I started my own business, I literally was working around the clock, which takes me back to that chapter where my daughter drew the picture of me chained to the computer to the desk,
Yeah.
because that was the norm and that was what I thought you were supposed to do, and that was the only way I thought you could get ahead,
Hmm.
until I reached like a plateau, and I realized I was on total burnout. And so back then, I wasn't even really hip to yoga or meditating. So it I just took beauty sleep days. Like I would literally work around the clock. So on Saturdays, I would just sleep all day. I would just stay in the bed. I would tell the girls, I'm in bed all day today. Try not to bother me. And that was my self-care. Literally sleeping all day. That was self-care. It wasn't like going to get my nails done. It wasn't working out. It was just sleep, because my body, I had worked, work, work, and my body was just, I had to pass out, and
Yeah.
that was my self-care. But again, I wasn't calling it self-care, so the name I came up, it was beauty sleep. I just need a day to beauty sleep.
Hmm. Love that. Allie is chiming in here. Allie says, so many parallels. We clearly both had to learn this lesson the hard way. And
Yeah.
I think that's what, I think this is an interesting one. I'm going to tell a story, Makita. I don't think you even know
Mhm.
this story. So I had the reason why I think I this can be challenging for me, but I understand the importance is because back in
Mhm.
2005, I went full time in my business in 2005. And I
Okay.
really was afraid. So I'm leaving a full time job where I had, I lived on property. I was a, hotel general manager, lived on property, had a company vehicle, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had been doing radio since 2003, but then I was
Okay.
started speaking and going different places and traveling. And so I quit my job in 2005 and went full time. Well, I was going because I thought I had to. Okay, I'm now
Mhm.
a full time entrepreneur. I made my grandmother was alive at the time. I was living with her, and
Okay.
I made it home from a trip, Makita. I got in the got out, turned the car off. I honestly could not get out the car. My body
Exhausted.
was so tired. I could not get out. I physically could. I had to sit in the car. Finally, my
Mm.
grandmother comes out, and I don't think I have shared this story. And asked if I was okay. I was like, I
Wow.
thought I needed some time. I stayed in bed almost a whole day. Because I just had worn myself out. I
Wearing
didn't,
ourselves out.
yeah. And so when I was reading this message for the book, I thought, wow, I've experienced it, but I have to say, and I'm not bragging, but I have to
Mm-hmm.
say that is the only time that's happened to me. I now take what I call, like, I love what you talk about, what you did. I will take a 30-minute, what I call a break. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it may not, I actually may not take a nap, but I won't have any devices. No, just
Mm-hmm.
time just to kind of reset. Um, not do anything, quote unquote, just to have that time, and that's enough for me now.
Mm-hmm.
Before I thought I had to be just going, 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 going,
Going,
going,
going, going. Yeah.
because people were asking, "Can you do this? Can you do?" Like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." Instead of thinking about what my body needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris is saying something interesting on Facebook. Chris says, "I've seen so many stories of people saving and working themselves to death, and before you know it, they are gone before they had a chance to enjoy the fruits of their hard work." So true, Chris. So true. So here you are, Makeda, opening up this conversation for men and women. How to talk to us about looking back at this now, especially this one part that you wrote. I want to read this part again.
Okay.
You say society used to shun rest and relax. We were led to believe that working hard is the path to success. I'm here to tell you that working hard is a path to burnout. That is a very hard truth. But what was it like for you to think about that based on your experience, as you mentioned, you shared in the book earlier?
Okay, Cyrus, you taxing my brain again.
Uh,
So wait, ask me that question again.
sure, yeah. What was it like for you? I mean, we know that that is true, but you
Mhm,
know from experience, as you mentioned, what you've gone through with clients. You mentioned that in this chapter. We have an
mhm.
experience of that already in the book. But also, as you mentioned, like your daughter in the picture, what was it like for you to kind of reflect on that and to share that from experience? No, you're not just
Oh,
saying something to someone, but you know from experience how you could get to a place of burnout.
yeah, that's interesting because that kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier before the show.
Hmm.
Like sitting down and writing the book made me come to terms with like so many realizations that probably just were like in the background of my consciousness, but that I wasn't giving any attention to. And so I remember when writing this chapter, it took me back to how differently I worked to how I work now, how differently I cared for myself in terms of how I care for myself now. Because when I look back on my early days of business, being an entrepreneur, I really neglected myself, I neglected myself, but I didn't know I was neglecting myself. And I thought, like I just said, I thought working around the clock was for the greater good. It was like how you survived is how I provided for my children. Not realizing that if I did not take the time to engage in some kind of self care, I really didn't realize the detriment I was doing to myself.
To yourself.
That's what I want to say. And I also have to say, like, okay, those patterns of working so hard and not taking care of myself, I'm on some level paying for them now. And a
Mm,
lot of us as older adults, we pay for them now because we have to, it's like the foundations we made for how we operate, we have to undo those foundations.
yeah,
Okay. So, like, the reason I put so much time into self care, meditation, yoga, breath work is because I'm undoing decades, literally decades of self inflicted stress.
wow.
Okay. So it's so funny because my daughter, my youngest daughter, always goes, Mom, like she always tells me, you're neurotic. People your age are all neurotic, and you can yoga and meditate all you want and breathe, but you're still neurotic. And I tell my daughter, but you have to imagine if I didn't do this,
Yeah,
what would I be? I would be so much worse.
yeah,
And I have to do this, but in doing this, like I don't beat myself up when she tells me, I'm still neurotic or I'm still crazy because, I'm a grandmother and they're going to say that about us anyway. But
Yeah.
I realize I really am undoing
Mm.
decades of self-inflicted stress that I did not know I was inflicting in my beingness, in my consciousness, in my nervous system. So
Right.
I'm retraining my nervous system, and that does not happen overnight.
Yeah. Oh, that's a word right there. It does not happen overnight. Success doesn't happen overnight, and undoing what we've done doesn't
And
happen
doing
overnight. Uh,
exactly.
Amy on Amazon. Hello, Amy. Good to be able to see you. Amy
Wow.
says nothing wrong with a 30-minute power nap or a day in bed. Yeah, I agree with you. And Amy says, "Amen to self care." She says, "One." I'm sorry, maybe that's 100,000%. And she
Mm,
says that tracks. But see, this is the thing. This is where I find a conflict, personally, Makeda.
mhm,
I agree with everything you wrote. I agree with everything that you're saying. But I do what I have learned for myself, and
mhm.
feel free to correct me on this. But I also have learned that this looks different for everyone, right?
Yeah,
There's no one size fits all for what that should look like.
exactly.
Like for me, I tell you, my best friend was asking me the other day. He's like, you could not take a weekend off. He said that to me. He said you could not take a weekend off because knowing me, I would go to a hotel. I would be taking pictures of the hotel, writing a review of the hotel, going to the restaurant, reviewing the food, taking pictures. I mean, I just that's just a natural thing. But if you say to me, Cyrus, take a couple hours, go paint something. Of course, even for me, that's relaxing, but still technically it's quote unquote work. But I enjoy that. That's downtime for me. I'm saying all that to say you mentioned, of course, for yourself having your day, your time in bed, right? What was it like for you to acknowledge for yourself that that was okay? That just doing that was okay for you?
Okay, so I got a couple of things come to mind.
Okay.
You're a baby boomer. I think that's what the generation you are. So your
Okay.
perspective is, of course, going to be different.
Okay.
Um, there's that. And then also, in terms of like your work is your passion, and your passion fuels you. It doesn't stress you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a totally different thing. Back
Yes.
then, my work was work, and it was very demanding work.
Hmm.
And it's and it and I I don't want to say it wasn't fueling me, but it was stressing me probably more than it was fueling me because of the nature of the work.
Got it.
Okay,
I
so
see.
it's kind of a different thing because
Yeah.
now my work fuels me and it doesn't stress me.
Hmm.
Okay. But also, in terms of the work I do, because of technology and the way the world has advanced, the things that used to take me literally a whole day or hours to accomplish, I
Hmm.
can get done in like a fraction of the time. So
Yeah.
I have more downtime. So there are different dynamics
Mm.
involved. So it's not just an equation of, oh, you have to do this or you have to stop working. So there's that. And
Mhm.
then I think I think even more than, okay, so I think what I want to say is like, as long as you're conscious of self-care, as long as you're conscious of what's fueling you and what's fueling your passion and what's energizing you, that's self-care. So
Mhm.
you working feeds your spirit. So that's self-care. When I work now, it really feeds my spirit. It doesn't stress me. So it's a totally different dynamic. When I work now, I work from a different headspace.
Mhm.
So there's that. But I think the most important lesson is that a lot of people, when they work, their work stresses them.
Yeah.
And I think their work stresses them and they don't realize their work is stressing them because they're just what did we used to call that back in the day? the rat race. Remember back in the
Yeah,
day when you're part of the rat race, you're
yeah.
just running, and you just going to work, come home, going to work, come home, and you don't even realize it. So, but now we live in a different era. So I think as long as you realize, like, if you realize your work is stressing you, you take the measures to mitigate that stress. But if your
Mhm.
work doesn't stress you and you're not, then that's totally a different thing. But
Yeah.
then I think, like I said, like some people aren't even cognizant that their work is stressing them,
Mhm.
you know
Right.
so like back then, before I just fell out from exhaustion and realized I had to stay in bed at least once a week, or like you sitting in the car and couldn't get out, you didn't really realize your work was stressing you. So once
Right.
you realize it's stressing you, as long as you take whatever measure works for you to de-stress yourself, that's your self-care, and that's what's important.
Yeah, such a great thing. Ally says, for me, it's all about balance. Just 7% of Americans are working in their dream jobs. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
that
And
part
Ellen and I were
too.
having this conversation last week. And this, Matthew Thornhill, hello to you over there on IG as well. I want to go back to the picture, Makeda. Talk
Uh-huh.
to us about this picture and today's message.
That picture is a yoga pose, and it's a pose of, I don't know what the pose is called. So
Hmm.
yogis out there, don't shoot me. I just know it's a yoga pose that I like
Right.
to do, but
Yeah.
it's also a pose of total surrender.
Mm,
It, like,
mm,
in deep stretch yoga, like, that pose doesn't really look that comfortable because of the way my legs are crossed. But
yeah.
once you get into that pose, even though the pose may start off as uncomfortable, the more you surrender, the more you relax into your muscles, the more de-stressing of your nervous system you engage. So it's just a pose of deep surrender and letting go, and just really just letting go,
Love
which
that.
is what self-care is, real
Yeah,
self-care.
exactly. And I think too, it goes to one thing for myself personally, even in this conversation today. This one felt really good today too. I think it's an important one. But just like I say in my life, success is personal. That
Hmm.
what is success for me is different than probably what it is for others. I think self
Hmm.
care is also personal. I think
Yeah,
whatever you
exactly.
need to do for yourself, for some people, may be going out there, being pampered, or taking a vacation.
Yeah.
Which I haven't had a vacation, quote unquote, and a technical one in a long time.
Neither
But
have I.
again, yeah. So I mean, but it's
Entrepreneurs,
like, yeah, but I
entrepreneurs
think for
take
me,
a
it's
vacation.
like, see, I get bored easily though. So it's like I can't imagine going a week to do something outside of what I want to do with work. You know?
Because your work feeds you and it's not stressful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been interviewing people on the boat. I got invited to come on the cruise. I said, you know what? Let me just tell you something. I'll be on the boat with people lined up interviewing.
And you really would. You
I
really
know,
would.
interviewing the musicians. Hey, you have 5 minutes? I think you guys are. It's
Creating content.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that I just really love. So, what is your hope? You asked some very good questions in this one, but what
Mhm.
is the one of the takeaways you want to leave with our audience with this one, Makita?
Um, to become conscious of your stress levels,
Hmm.
and then to do the work to mitigate that stress.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of us have, like, high blood pressure and all kinds of chronic diseases,
Yeah,
or chronic ailments, I'll say chronic ailments. And a lot of those ailments are from stress, are from like decades and decades of just feeding our nervous system with stress. So, take the time to realize what are your stressors, and then take the time to realize what you can do to de-stress.
yeah. I love these two questions you have in there, Makita.
Mhm.
What self-pampering rituals do you indulge in?
Exactly.
Indulge in? Do you need to create some new ones or enhance the ones you have? I love that permission slip for our audience of making sure you're doing something that is for you. And then,
Yeah.
you're not, to do that. Yeah.
I just have a thought. Sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off,
go ahead.
but I
No,
was
go ahead. Go
going to
ahead.
say
Yeah.
it's really important to give yourself permission to stop, get off the treadmill, and
Mm,
just surrender and relax. Because a lot of times the stress comes in because we feel like if we're not working hard, um, we're not manifesting. You
mm,
know, like a lot of people equate manifesting with working hard, and it really has to be a balance. There's working hard and there's relaxing. It's the balance of the two that creates the manifestation. And quiet as it's kept, supreme manifestation is done in stillness when you're
mm.
not doing anything.
Not doing anything. Right. What a great thing. What a great I think this is one of our longest conversations, Makeda. But it's such an important topic. That's where I said to Makeda before we went live, I said, this is such a good one. Next week also, to whet your appetite, next week also is a very good one. So make sure you guys are staying tuned and let us know in the comment section on whatever platform you're joining us on and what you're doing for yourself. What is part of your self-care routine? And Makeda, if it's okay with you, I'm going to clip this out and have this as a reel for our audience because I would love
Okay.
to hear more of their thoughts. Again, everyone, Flying Over 50 at Any Age by Makeda Smith. We've been discussing week number 12 in our series, but it's day 12 in the book. You all can get the book here on Amazon again, either the print edition for $9.99, or you can get the Kindle edition there for $5.99. Makeda, great conversation. Let them know how to stay connected with you.
I'm at Flying Over 50 and at the Makeda Method all across the web. Just Google me.
And let me, Zimmer Entertainment has a great thought. She says, yes, after 11 years active duty Navy and 25 combined
Mm,
federal service, I have released that reality of success. I retired early and I'm trying to find new ways to get away from the previous constant stress, monthly massages, going to the gym, and sleep in days.
mhm.
And then she says, great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing
Excellent.
that, Zimmer Entertainment as well. And I think these conversations, again, are so important. And I'm so glad, Makeda, that because you wrote this book, we're able to have these conversations like this and let people know that's okay. It's okay to take care of yourself. If you don't mind, I'll end with this. Iyanla Van Zant said something to Oprah, and I think you and I talked about this, where
Uh-huh.
she was talking about people talk about their cup. And she says, what people forget is that what's in the cup is for you. The
Mhm.
overflow is for everyone else. And that you have to
Mhm.
make sure your cup stays full for you
Yeah,
so you can be of service and be of good to other people as well. I thought that was a really good point. It's a great
that's true.
reminder for sure.
That's
Makeda,
true.
looking forward to next week.
All right, Cyrus. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yes, and we thank you all for tuning in to Flying Over 50 at Any Age. Until next week, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Blessings.